Let's see what we got.
Now, coming to the question David asked.
Finally!
So, why is he asking for this statement? Because he knows the New Testament is corrupt.
Hold up.
What happened?
Notice all of that stuff that we just watched, and now he says, finally we come to the question. It was a simple question, right? Give us a verse. Give us the verse. You Muslims believe that there are verses in the Quran that say that our scripture has been corrupted. He goes through all this time, and now he gets to, oh, and here's the verse. All right, let's go ahead and watch.
Asked. So, why is he asking for this statement? Because he knows the New Testament is corrupt. And the Quran does teach that the New Testament is corrupt. I'll give you one short example very quickly. I don't want to go on for too long. The Quran in chapter 4, verse 157 categorically states that Jesus was definitely not killed. He was not crucified. He was not killed. Gospels state that he was crucified and he was killed. In other words, the Quran is indirectly saying that the Gospels are corrupt. This statement is not unequivocal. It is not saying the New Testament is corrupt, but the outcome is...
Whoa. Did you catch that? He's given one verse so far, and this is all he's given, ever, to show that the Quran is affirming the corruption of our text. But look at what he said. He just said, and by the way, this is not unequivocal. Watch this.
This statement is not unequivocal. It
What?
is not...
It's not unequivocal. Notice I lay down the challenge, guys. Give me one unequivocal verse in the Quran saying that the gospel has been corrupted. Every Muslim, I mean, you're talking hundreds of Muslims have sent me this clip has sent me this video saying, aha, he refuted you and he showed you and answered you. And what does he say? David, you're right. Even this one, even the only one I'm quoting, doesn't show that isn't unequivocal. All right, but let's go ahead and read
In
that
other
part.
words, the
Check that part.
Quran is indirectly saying that the Gospels are corrupt. This statement is not unequivocal. It is not saying the New Testament is corrupt, but the outcome is that the New Testament is corrupt. And the Quran, in this particular verse, chapter 4, verse 157, clearly states that they follow nothing but conjecture. Those who differ among themselves, those who differ about the matter of crucifixion among themselves. Who are those who differ among themselves is the question. The gospel authors, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters out there, and I'm talking to Christians here. The gospel authors, none of them agree fully. None of them, not one of them fully agree as to the details of the matter of crucifixion.
Ooh. I don't know if I should give Adnan the benefit of the doubt, but I think I caught Adnan a little lie there. He says this verse is directed towards Christians, those who are, those who only follow conjecture and are full of doubt. Sam, is it wrong, or is Allah responding to Jews here?
You just read the verses immediately preceding. It's talking about the Jews insulting Mary, the mother of Christ, and it says, and the verse begins, it's saying, and for they're boasting, we killed Jesus, the Messiah, the son of Mary, the apostle of Allah. Which Christian is going to say, hey, we killed the Messiah? These are Jews.
For that matter, which Jew is going to say, we killed the Messiah? We killed the Messiah, ladies and gentlemen.
100%. Yeah. And you know, it's ironic. Two things to highlight. Number one, last time I checked, folks, again, this is the best that Islam has to offer. This is their best, honestly. So he's arguing similarly to the way Shabir Ali would argue. He makes similar points that the Quran doesn't. Shabir Ali admits the Quran doesn't come out black and white say the Bible's corrupt, but it says things to imply the corruption of the Bible because it contradicts its core doctrines. That's even a Shabir Ali can argue. But coming back to this issue, you go and watch Adnan Rashid's debate with Samuel Green and others, especially James White, on the crucifixion. Here's Adnan wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to prove that this passage is implicitly saying the New Testament's corrupt because it denies the crucifixion. But then he debates Christians on the basis of the New Testament to show the New Testament says Jesus didn't die via crucifixion. So I'm a little baffled. Remember, I'm not a logician, David Wood. I'm not. You're the logician. How can you say that the Quran is implicitly testifying to the New Testament being corrupted, and then debate Christians on the basis of the New Testament to show that the New Testament denies that Jesus died by crucifixion, but he was rescued per Psalm 91? I'm confused. Can you help me understand that?
I'm confused in all kinds of ways because notice, I mean, look, what he's saying here, in effect, is the Quran contradicts the Bible, therefore the Quran must be saying that the Bible's been corrupted. When our entire point is the author of the Quran has no clue what he's talking about. He doesn't know what's in the Bible. He affirms the Bible. He tells us to judge by the Bible. He tells us that we have no ground to stand upon if we do not stand upon the Bible. That's what he tells us over and over again. He says no one can change his words. Adnan doesn't refute any of that, not one word of it. We ask him for, can you show us one verse that talks about the corruption of our text in your book that's filled with nothing but affirmation of our text? And he says, well, it must be, the Quran must be saying it's corrupt because this contradicts our book. Great, you've just given us the other arm of the Islamic dilemma, right? We need 2 points to affirm the Islamic dilemma. 1, the Quran affirms the inspiration, preservation, authority of the gospel. And 2, the Quran contradicts the gospel, right? We say, hey, look, the Quran, we tell Muslims, hey, your Quran affirms our book. And then they change the subject to, but the Quran contradicts the Bible. We know that. We know that. We are defending that. So you're simply agreeing with us. Over and over and over again, we make these claims. They don't refute the claims. And then they agree with other things we're saying that destroy their religion. This is amazing stuff, man.
Yeah. And the second point I want to add, guys, understand what he said. We follow nothing but conjecture regarding Jesus' crucifixion. Now, this now ends up proving the Quran is corrupted and that the Quran has been dismembered, as chapter 15, verses 90-91 states. Christians, follow the logic. We follow nothing but conjecture when it comes to Jesus being killed by crucifixion. But last time I checked, there is no unanimity in the Muslim sources regarding what chapter 4, verse 157 means precisely. Now, let me qualify what I'm saying there. You will find that the earliest tradition, one that is attributed to Ibn Abbas, that it was one of Jesus's disciples that was made to look like Jesus, and he died on the cross. But then others disagreed, saying, no, it was probably Tatawus, or it was probably Judas. And then now you have Muslims like Shabir Ali saying, no, the Quran doesn't say that someone was made to look like Jesus and they killed that lookalike in the place of Jesus. In reality, what it's saying is Jesus wasn't killed by the cross, though he was on the cross and he swooned, the apparent death theory, that he swooned on the cross. So they thought he died. That's how Allah made it appear to them. They thought he died, but he actually passed out, he swooned, and then Allah miraculously resuscitated him while he was in the tomb, after being beaten to a bloody pulp, whipped to the point of death, doesn't die, but swoons, and then somehow comes out of the grave, fully conscious, because that's a miracle of Allah. So, who's following conjecture? The Muslims. Why? Because they can't make heads or tails out of what this passage is saying exactly. And this is the passage that Adnan wants to use to try to prove our New Testament's corrupt. If anything, it now backfires at Adnan. It proves your Quran is corrupt, because till this day, you guys can't figure out the precise meaning of a passage that says that they neither killed him nor crucified him, but it so appeared unto them. And you can't even agree, what does that mean? It so appeared unto them. And surprise, surprise, if you want to take the view that Allah made it look like Jesus died, then how can the New Testament be corrupted when they're simply going along with the scheme of your God and saying Jesus did die because Allah made it appear to them as he did die? So why would you blame them for writing that down as part of the gospel that Allah sent down when Allah made it appear to them that he died and convinced them of that? Help me out, David.
Yeah, just imagine this, right? Allah, according to the Quran, makes this great big illusion. He makes everyone think that they're seeing Jesus crucified on the cross. And they all see it. They see it with their own eyes. It's a public event. The Romans knew about it. The Jews knew about it. The Christians knew about it. Everyone knows because they see it. And 2,000 years worth of people affirm that Jesus died by crucifixion. His followers went out declaring that he died on the cross. And Adnan says, you see, the Quran points out that they follow nothing but conjecture. Ha ha. What do you mean? They saw it with their own eyes. If Adnan is right, then everything we see with our own eyes is nothing but conjecture. It's just, we have no basis for what we're saying other than the fact that we saw it with our own eyes. Do you imagine? I mean, what kind of God condemns what you see with your own eyes?
Right?
So notice this. This is Allah. So notice, ladies and gentlemen, first be aware of this, especially you Muslims. Because when we say, where does the Quran affirm that the gospel has been corrupted. We get responses from Muslims. Oh, you know, chapter 2, verse 79. Oh, chapter 2, verse 75. Oh, chapter 3. They give us verses. Why did Mufassal Islam, the Muslim apologist and YouTuber, not use those? Why did he not just quote those? This is Adnan Rashid in an 18 or 20-minute video or whatever it is. He's not using any of those verses that you guys think are about the corruption of the gospel, of the Christian scriptures. Why are these guys not using them? Because these guys know those verses don't mean that. They know that we are familiar with their commentaries and with the literary context and with other things the Quran say. They know that if they quote those, we will obliterate them. That's why they're not using them. That is why they're not using them. Guys, that should make you think. You Muslims who are watching, that should make you stop and think. Wait a minute. All these verses that I think are about the corruption of the gospel, my apologists won't dare quoting those against Sam Shamoun. They won't dare. Maybe there's a reason, and maybe the reason is because there's no way they could defend it against Sam Shamoun. And they don't want to bring it up and give Sam Shamoun the opportunity to massacre the argument. They don't want to do that. Because they'd rather have you Muslims in the chat go around thinking that Surah 2 verse 79 refutes everything else the Quran says about the perfect preservation of our scriptures. They want you to think that, so they don't want to bring it up because they don't want us responding to it, right? And so, where does Adnan go? He goes to Surah 4, verse 157, knowing that even Muslims can't agree on what happened, knowing that Muslims have had all kinds of positions, and even in the earliest commentaries, they contradict each other all over the place on what this verse means. And then he says, you see, dumb Christians, they have nothing but conjecture to follow. Allah, who's responding to Jews who boast. But by the way, you Jews who are watching, you never say this. You never said, aha, yes, we killed Christ, the Messiah, we killed him. Right? Yep. You've never said that, but that's what Allah is accusing you of doing. But Allah responds to your imaginary boasts that you killed the Messiah by saying, you're wrong, you didn't kill him, you didn't crucify him, and you're following nothing but conjecture. Adnan takes that verse, which he knows is directed towards these supposed Jews who are boasting, and he says, what's Allah talking about here? He's talking about Christians and their scriptures. He's saying that their scriptures are contradictory, and he's condemning their scriptures even though this has nothing to do with it. This is the best, Sam. This is the best. I put out my challenge on Tuesday. He had all the time in the world to formulate his perfect response. He spends 12 minutes of his video going over nothing that has anything to do with anything, just pretending that belief in the books is not one of the articles of faith, without which you cannot be a Muslim, pretending that it's just inconsequential and irrelevant. And then when he finally gets to actually answering the question, he admits that I'm right. That's right. This is not unequivocal. And then he pretends that this verse is a response to Christians that is saying that our scriptures have been corrupted. So, ladies and gentlemen, on the one hand, we have Allah clearly, indisputably claiming that Christians have the inspired, preserved, authoritative word of God, but we're supposed to throw out all of those clear verses and go with a passage where Allah is responding to Jews and he says, haha, you think you crucified him? Well, you didn't. And we're supposed to take that as Allah giving secret coded language that is telling us that our scriptures have been corrupted, which completely contradicts everything he said about our scriptures. And this is the best that Islam has to offer on this issue.
But David, that was the surprise. Surprise, David.
Surprise.
Yeah, that was it. That was a surprise. See, that was a surprise, man. Can't you get it? They were trying to surprise you. Come on.